Hi, welcome. On this video, this is part four of my breakdown series where I'm profiling trainers who are doing it right. And so, again, this is a really great breakdown series because I'm going to be talking a lot about the method as I go through. And again, just like in the last video, I talked about, I actually offered a little critique about the push-pull um, by way again of how it's performed. But here's the thing with these two trainers. Whatever critique I have, a little bit of critique there about the method or whatever, it's very minor. Okay, understand that in the balance of how they're engaging. Okay, the process and their technique. It's absolutely outstanding. Okay, so whatever critique you hear me saying on these little videos, it's basically just little. It's like smoothing off the rough edges of something that's almost like great already. Okay, it's not it's just kind of minor points I'll be making, but here's the thing: is like this system of training, everything matters. Okay, but here's the thing: is I was helping a dog owner here the other day, and there's a lot okay in the system. Okay, but it's about getting the most important things kind of established first. And I mentioned this on the last video, but some of the things you can do in terms of not letting a dog get ahead of your feet. Okay, starting to engage that way, starting to, line things up. And so you get the most important things that are going to really generate, okay, start to generate change. And then you can do the add-ons, okay? Because here's the thing is like things take a while to become automatic, okay? Where you don't have to think it. Like I don't have to think anything, okay? I mean, I'm doing it, but you have to appreciate the fact when people are just starting into they're into the system, and don't get me wrong, these trainers are advanced, okay, but when other people are starting into the system, it takes a while. Even the dog trainer certification program I talk about, it is still a starting point. I mean, to develop it, like I have over 30 years in, it's a starting point. But the good news, even through the system, is there's a support there throughout. Again, I'll continue to plug the system. Christian Hirschman, he was down here just a couple of days ago. He went through all the courses, the introductory, advanced, the actual coming here for the week for the course. But he continued, I continue to invest in the system. And so getting that support, knowing that it's a developmental thing. And even when I had a conversation with him just the last time, I was very impressed. I'm not just saying that with the level of until he's considering, he's thinking, right? He's still adding, still that level of introspective, asking questions, gaining insights. Incredible. It just kind of reaffirms everything as he goes along. So but to me, it's a pleasure. I enjoy. That's the positive for me. All this other stuff on social media, you see what's going on. It's very negative because it's a war, right? And so when I say this system of training is a complete system, answers the questions. Well, that right away, that's like a moth to the flame, okay? And all these trainers coming in, trying to engage, trying to do something, leverage something. Well, I talk about the question of the century. Okay, it's right up there. You can't touch it. Okay, it goes to the heart of the matter. Like, good luck with that. Okay, that's all I have to say. Like, if you want to focus on something, focus on that. And I guarantee you that's going to cause you to consider a lot. Okay, just that, this what I call the question of the century. I have several videos on it. Just, I would say, get off social media, sit down with that question, and just ponder. Okay, and that's it. You'll start to you start to gain some insight, you start to question. But again, this is as individuals. So but the trainer here, Anton, he's some of the responses he's put on my videos, I mean, very, very insightful, very insightful. So again, we're going to be playing some more of this video to go along. I got my Tim Hortons coffee mug here, so um I'm Canadian. Okay, and so Tim Hortons is like the Dunkin' Donuts of Canada. Tim Hortons is everywhere. And so here's the thing: where I'm in Florida, I get my Tim Hortons, okay, and I'm on to the dark roast. I order it from Amazon. So everybody's wondering, I'm gonna as I do my videos, I'm gonna talk a little bit more about about me a little bit. I'm not doing it for marketing purposes. Some of these balance trainers, and that's incredible. I heard a balance dog trainer a while back actually talking, and he had mentioned this to some of his people he's trained, saying, "Well, talk about your family, get people to get people to buy into your method." It was like there's always an ulterior motive with everything. It's like talk about your family, get people to like you, so this is me adding on, so they don't question your actual approach to mass. Okay, it's almost like so much is about that. To me, it's not. Okay, you're going to get the truth. Okay, and and I get right to the point. So let's play some more of this video. Here's part four. As we, again, it's very helpful to hear these trainers talk about, and this happened last time, he was talking about, micro tension was the word he used. That was a great way to phrase that in terms of what I call the baseline. Okay. And so I explained, went through that as well. So understand there's so much because there's a lot. When you watch my videos, understand there's a lot of subtle things going on. Okay. That you're just gonna look at it. And the thing is, a lot of trainers, they get very upset because when they see certain reactions of dogs, they just from the reaction itself, they don't reconcile anything. They just get upset because they're seeing a certain reaction because their bent is towards calming the waters through bribery and using treats. Okay, their engagement in terms of relationship problem is totally different and not in a good way. And so they end up in the outcome isn't great at all for the dogs and owners because you end up with a relationship problem that hasn't been fixed. Okay, that's why all these trainers are left with these dogs, their own dogs they have, these reactive dogs, and they're out there judging, trying to bring down judgment on people when they have dogs that they can't fix themselves. I mean, just the hypocrisy is unbelievable in the dog training community. It's out of control.
With a leash? Yes, that is, everything begins in a calm environment, and we show the dog how to react to this tension. There are, as it were, 2 points. There is the starting point, the beginning of the requirement, and the beginning, accordingly, of the leash tension. There is the second point when the dog sits by the leg.
It's the same thing here. It's like just advocating. If you're dealing with a dog in terms of, a stinking thinking, okay, you want to work out that baseline and get that inwardness happening, okay, with if you're
And the
interacting.
leash relaxes just a little. This is microscopic work that not everyone will even notice in this video, but it is present, and I am drawing your attention to it. It is clear that a teenager might have, for example, a conflict with their parents, and if you take them by the hand, they might freak out and everything, because they...
So right there, the dog was looking around, but this dog, and this is the thing to consider, is actually looks pretty agreeable. So obviously, trainers already got to a certain point in the relationship, and this is where you get to we talk about the loose leash. This is where you get to the loose leash. Understand that everything has a place. Okay, so these trainers, they go on my thing and they go crazy because they're overly focused on loose leash. Want to get that picture? I mean, it's bizarre to me. It's crazy. Like when I hear but then it makes sense. I'm thinking like, why are these trainers like so bent on, that's their big focus is like just generate that loose leash because they're jumping over the most important part of the process. That's why they're not considering anything. And then when the blame shifting happens, they're just like, it's just like, let's just write it off. It's just like, let's just, blame the dog. I mean, this is the problem. Understand that. But here, understand, everything moves forward, okay, in terms of a process. So it starts off because it can be very, just it corresponds to the relationship. So if a dog is gaining a lot of control in the relationship, okay, the structure is going to be different. Okay, it's going to be more intentional, more defined. It's going to appear more tyrannical. Okay, really, it is. People look at my videos and because you're when you're kind of peeking in on a process that I'm doing. If you look at my board train videos, that moment, that video series or that part of that's the worst part of the relationship. Understand it's like stepping into a selfish child and you're as a parent and you're dealing with like it took time to get there. Okay, things have gone sideways and then you have that kind of epiphany moment where it's like, okay, now I have to fix this. And that's what you're seeing on the video. So the fix is happening, right? And so that engagement level you're gonna see is gonna look a certain way. It's not gonna be fun. Okay, it's not going to be fun. But the same as being a parent. When a child's selfish, you got to deal with it. It's not going to be fun, and you're not going to like, deep down, you're not going to like. Who wants confrontation? But it's about you as a parent, your role. It's about understanding your role. It's still everything you're going to do is still reasonable, but you're going to get maybe some very unreasonable reactions because you're engaging differently. Understand? It's about having this conversation. That's why I want to have this conversation to go through. It's like there's so much confusion in the dog training world, but there's so much misrepresentation happening. So many trainers out there that will say, "Look at my videos," and they try to bring the hammer down, right? But their objection points, okay, and really makes sense. You just go and rewatch all that stuff, and I talk through it all. Um, their objection points, they'll take a clip of, say, a dog reacting to me when I come to the stop on the walk. When I stop, the dog will have a reaction, and they'll jump all over it. It's like, oh, look at the violence happening, and they just go, the dog is stressing, and they use all this Zach George language to try to package it all up into something it's not. Okay, it's a moment, a moment within the context of relationship change. Okay, those core ingredients are happening. It's a conversation. Okay, I understand the conversation with the dog. The conversation happened. The dog isn't liking, but the dog comes into agreement with. We move through those moments. But see, these trainers, they don't want to talk about that. Their whole thing is they want to bypass. They want to just say, "Oh, that's terrible. Let's pull the treats out, or let's move forward." You see this other trainer talk about movement's a problem, right? So everything you do happens for a reason, but yeah, you can move forward, and that way, and it'll seem better. It's not. So you have to understand these interplays. That's the thing. It's like what's happening beyond just appearances. And this is why I get into, but you have to be able, but then they will have, and they do, they have their own personal dogs that are a mess. And don't get me wrong, it's not the dog's fault. Okay, it's these trainers that refuse to admit there's a problem with what they're doing. And then they're trying to go on the attack and package things up. It's an embarrassment. Okay, it's what it is. It's embarrassing. I recommend these trainers just don't come into my stuff. If you don't like what I'm gonna say, move on with your craziness. Go somewhere else.
Are already selfish because there is
See, there's that look, right? So that the head turning in, right? So it's that I talk fading in, right? Moments where you see stopping right here with the leash. There's some control coming through, right? And you see that inwardness is the sign. Okay, it's not, and the dog isn't turning inward here because you're moving the leash to make it happen. It's because of what influences is how it's affecting the dog's perceptions. Okay, and that's why even when you do say the push pull method, if a dog has a ball in their mouth and they're really possessive of that ball, you can just put everything I say to the test. If you do that push pull method and just really kind of just stretch that out to a certain point because you're in conversation through that method, influence control is happening. It affects the dog's mind. The dog will release that ball from their mouth. Just try that. Try that method instead of trying to take the ball out of the dog's mouth. Do the push pull method and then leave a comment on my videos. Okay, tell me what happened because that's the trick, right? That's because it's like a conversation. The mind is going to have now. The more possessive that dog is, the more they're going to resist. You have to hold that method, okay, for a period of time, but that the mind's affected, the ball will release, and as soon as the ball releases, just use the word out to create that association. Okay, so what it'll do is it'll build up towards a point where after you do the method enough times, and the dog has something in their mouth they're not supposed to have, or they just want them to drop whatever, you say the word out and they will just release it. Okay. So, everything, how commands align, okay, through influence and control, the method's all part of it.
already a problem, not because of the very act of being touched by the hand. It's the same with a dog. That is, calm tension for a dog that already has a normal relationship established with its owner will not provoke a conflict.
So, see the same thing. So, he's exactly right. So, that's the test. It's like the litmus test, right? The level of agreeableness or disagreeableness within the parameters of what's reasonable, with the dog understanding intent, influence and control being reconciled through how the leash is being used, your interactions, right? That's what's going to give you context. That's the test. That's the big Murdaugh test. Okay, I talked about, right? Go watch it. It's like, don't you understand what's going on here? And then you can connect dots. But but the more agreeable the dog gets, right? The more that's a sign that the relationship's getting better. Understand there's things in the method that's going to allow you to gain insight into where you're at, okay, how things are progressing and moving along, which is good news. That's what you want. Because otherwise, what are you doing? You're just flying by the seat of your pants. You're you're looking at responses in a superficial way, and you're not going to know. That's why people get blindsided all the time, or they just don't know what's going on. So you want to be right. You want to be dialed in this system, in this method, dials you into that. You don't have to guess. You will know. Okay, and that's the great thing about this system. That's totally different than any other system. Okay, it's going to give you real time information.
But if a conflict already exists, then this technique will in fact bring it to the surface. Leash tension
Yeah, excellent. Like that's right on, spot on.
is not something bad. It is a way to lead and guide the dog, and the dog can simply react either by agreeing with these requirements or by disagreeing and resisting. So our task is to teach the dog to react with agreement, and only then can we talk about the leash being slack and the dog doing what we need on its own.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, I couldn't say it any better than that. That's exactly what it is. Like again, spot on. That's exactly what it is.
As the dog stabilizes, we begin to join the general circle,
Stabilized, right?
the general movement pattern, and we start, well, actually moving. Because in this training session with Charlie the Labrador, I stood there for about 10-15 minutes, working on shifting his focus and getting him to calm down since he was vocalizing and wanted to run ahead. And once again, we couldn't just walk, because in this case, to walk would have meant giving in to his demands, and only after overcoming this hysteria, this overexcitement and stress, and overcoming this resistance, did we begin to move gradually. We are moving in a circle. A circle creates repetition. Repetition creates...
Say right here. So, circle method. See, I was talking about this in the last video. The dog's head turning in for contact. Because what happens in the circle method, it takes the stress off the dog. You're making contact, but it de-stresses the dog. Okay, it takes the stress off the dog, and the head will turn in for two reasons. Number one is because the focus is shifting anyway, so that inwardness is going to start to happen. And inwardness represents focus changing. Okay, the fading in, as I call it. But the second thing is in conjunction with that is the contact, it actually de-stresses the dog. Okay, you're in harmony with the dog. And so here you see Anton with his leg. He dog's on his left side. He's moving inwards, the left, right? And this circle method will develop your walk. So the thing is, the more the dog is trying to get out in front of you, the more they're trying to surge out in front, the tighter your circles will be. Okay, to block the dog, to get the dog back on your side. So you're using your whole body. In fact, when you take your first step, say the dog's on your left side, you want to shoot that left leg out right away. Okay, just to anticipate and just slightly angle and turn. Okay, and so it's a transition too to get a dog off leash. You see it in my videos where if I'm doing a board and train, you'll see me doing the circle method, and I'll start to let my hand go off the dog's collar. I'll get rid of the leash. I'll just be using my arm, and then I can just let go. And typically, you want to let go at the points where on the turn where you're making a little contact with your knee. And the knee helps to actually move the dog a little bit. Okay, you can actually it's a little trick there. Okay, with using your knee to generate a little friction to get that dog to kind of move forward. The dog's trying to halt a little bit. So there's little tricks here too. Now again, with a medium-sized dog, large dog, this is easy to do. But you get a little Chihuahua or something, it's like the ankle method. As I call it. But really, it's harder to do. You have to use mostly just the leash. Okay, if you're dealing with a really really small dog. But for a medium-sized dog, a large dog, this method works great.
predictability, and accordingly, when everything is predictable, the dog learns better and has.
Yeah, and so there too, you can see, and you're also coordinating the leash at the same time. So go back here, it's like you're kind of multitasking. Okay, you're in communication with the leash, that little bit of, little nudging going on, communication. You're multitasking. The dog is changing, losing focus, starting to invest in someone walking or another dog. As you do the circle method, you're still tapping. Okay, I understand there's like two or three things that will be going on at the same time. So we're at 20 minutes now. We'll stop part 4 here. Again, this series is a great series. If you have questions about the method, I'm going to talk through some of the method here, give you kind of go behind the scenes and give you some tips and pointers and some stuff. But here's the thing: if you are interested in the system, I would encourage you to check out the member area option. Okay, I mentioned this on other videos, but the member area option has exclusive video content, hundreds of extra videos. It's going to be very helpful. It's like one-time payment. You don't have to pay over and over again. Lifetime access. You go in there, hang out in there. Okay, hang out in there versus hanging out in Zach George's channel and everywhere else. Hang out in the member area. I guarantee you, it's going to really help you, gain more insight. Lots of instructional videos. So, and the thing is about like be all in. Don't be wishy washy. I'm going to be a balanced. Like you let that stuff go. Just let it go because it's different. The motivation, okay, is the relationship. Okay, you're working off that connection. You're not throwing treats around, using toys. Don't want to do that. Okay, it can set up a counterfeit picture. Understand that, and to gain that insight as to why, that's why. So, thanks for watching. I'll be putting a part 5 out here shortly.